This is Kim Rivers interviewing for Samuel Proctor Oral History Project and the Florida Park Service. Today is May 26, 2024. And I'm with Bing.
Yeah.
Bing, for starters, could you please say your whole name, where and when you were born?
Okay. My full name is Edward Michael Futch, and I was born December 16th, 1966 in Hollywood, California.
Well, how did you go from Edward Michael to Bing?
In 1989, I was training to be a Universal Studios Hollywood tour guide, and I guess it was in May or so. We were out there. It was very, very hot, and we were training. We were pretty much at the end of training, and one of my fellow trainees was a guy named Ian from Australia, and for whatever strange reason, he was saying, "Hey, Bing, go on, you Bing. Hey, we're gonna have a good time, Bing." And finally, like the second or third day into this week-long training, I'm like, "Why do you keep calling me that?" "I don't know, it sounds good. You look like a Bing. Hey, Bing, how's it going, Bing?" So I'm like, whatever. So I'm a Michael, typically. And I end up with three other Michaels. We actually made the cut. Ian didn't. But when they called somebody out to a tram, they'd say, "Michael, tram on the left." And we'd all go scrambling in there, which one do you mean? So I told Dan Farmer, the tour guide dispatcher, "Listen, they called me Bing during training. Why don't we just use Bing for my name? And that'll absolve a little of the chaos." He's like, "All right, Bing, tram on the left." And he writes my name in the log. Well, we worked for IATSE, which is a union, like the Teamsters in LA. And when you get your name cut in a check, whatever that name is, it's a legal name change in the state of Florida. So legally, I became Bing Futch. And the rest is history. I haven't gone back. People who knew me prior to '89 can call me Mike. If it's Edward, I know I'm in trouble, or it's somebody official.
And then what brought you to Florida?
It was the farthest thing from living out in 26 years of California. It was the farthest thing I could do to get away from all that. I wanted extreme. And I also wanted theme parks, since I'm into theme parks. But I also knew it was an entertainment hub. In '93, when I moved out here, I knew there was a lot of production going on at Universal. Sequest DSV was shooting on the coast. They were calling it the Hollywood East. And I was looking to get into production work, and so I figured it was a smart move, and it was far away from what I was doing. And I visited once in '91 and thought, there's still a lot of undeveloped land here, whereas it's just a concrete jungle in Los Angeles. You're hard-pressed to find anything that hasn't been developed. And I saw how many meadows and how wild it was while still being all built up for this entertainment district. And I thought, yeah, let's give it a shot. I sold everything and I moved out here in '93 of April. And my first job was working at the Hollywood Diner on 192 in Kissimmee. And I was staying in Kissimmee in a apartment. And then I got a job at SeaWorld. And then I ended up at Universal Studios Florida. And that was an adventure unto itself, opening up the Jaws ride for the second time and things like that. I could go off on the theme park side of things forever. I worked 10 years in Knott's Berry Farm, you name it. Six Flags, pushing the button, making the coaster go. That was my highest achievement up until music.
So, almost diametrically opposed from the theme park experience is the Florida Folk Festival.
Yes.
So, what brought you to the Florida Folk Festival?
Elaine McGrath. I was part of some of the first festivals were Dulcimer retreats I'd gone to, were the Stephen Foster Dulcimer Retreat, which I think at the time was called the Suwannee River Dulcimer Retreat. And David Beatty was the director, and he had inherited the mantle from John Kay. And so I'd always heard about John Kay through David. And I said, "So David, how did you become director?" And he said, I was supposed to be temporary, and now I'm doing this thing. So I had been part of that a couple of years, and one day, I guess, or one evening, I was in concert, and Elaine was standing next to David and was watching me perform and said, why won't we have him at the Florida Folk Festival? And I was invited the very next year as a featured performer. Or I think it may have been 2 years. I'm a little confused because it's been so many. And it's been a blessing to be able to be in that amphitheater and perform there. But it was Elaine. She was like, "Let's get this guy over there." And she reached out. And it's been wild.
It is wild. How many years wild is it for you now?
Gosh, I want to say it's at least 7 or 8. Because 8 years ago, I was on the stage opening for Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. I know there was prior times to that, so I have ADHD, so my dates and everything else, unless if it was pre-91, I can remember every stupid little date, every record that came out, every movie when it was released. After that, things just go sideways for some reason. But 8, 9 years, for certain.
So we're way up here in North Florida, almost to Florida.
Yeah, right.
It's not really convenient to come here. What brings you back?
Well, the beauty of the park, first of all, is a great example of natural Florida. You know, being able to hike along the Sewanee, camp across it, walk out in some of the piney woods area, and then be wide open meadows, and the taste of so many different some of the aspects of Florida topography is amazing. And I love state parks and I love national parks, and this is one of the greatest. And then you've got this other component because of the tie-in with Stephen Foster. You've got the Carillon Tower and the music, and you've got the dioramas, and you've got all of the history and a different flavor. And I've been to a lot of state parks, and not many of them have, or let me say, not many of them are this well apportioned with so much history and so much entertainment and the programs. And so, you know, from the Dulcimer Retreat to coming to Florida Folk Festival to coming to light displays to things other times around the park, it's just a jewel, and I really enjoy coming here. So being involved here not only is the beauty of it, but it's the memories and the promise of whatever new event or what event I'm remembering. A lot of great memories have been made here over the past 10 years now, I can say clearly, because 2006, 2007 was my first Dulcimer retreat here.
Do you have a standout memory? Like, oh man, I'll never forget.
A lot of them. It's hard to pick one. It's hard to pick one. You know, I would say, okay, it was the year that Jim Billy was here and showed the film about just his life with the Seminole tribe and all the kind of craziness that happened afterwards. And being part Seminole, I wanted to meet the chief, you know, and there was Chief Jim. And so I got a chance to talk with him a bit about, one, the Futch family that came out of the Seminole tribes, and then two, talk to him about, is it okay if I'm like singing Big Alligator? Because I was covering it a lot at the time. And he gave me like pronunciation tips on it and stuff, and he was super cool. So that was a moment. The Florida Folk Festival brought me and my chief together face to face. That was wild.
I never knew that about you.
Yeah?
So from a person of Seminole heritage, tell us a little about the Seminole Village experience at Florida Folk Festival.
It's incredible. It really is. It's the, next to being on the res, it's the most authentic and welcoming and warming experience that you can get here. Everything from the fry bread to the chickies, you know, and how it was thatched and everything else. It's very transformative to be here. And it's jumping this year with a lot of demonstrations, and it's definitely coming to life. You know, and there are times you come through here and there's nothing really going on, but the chickies are back there. I'll go back there with the flute, and I'll stand in the center of it, and I'll just kind of flute to the spirits who are in the thatching, in the wood, all around there. And it's always really nice, really peaceful. It's like a church when there's nothing going on.
When you come to the folk festival, what are your lodgings?
I've been staying in my rig ever since the very beginning. And I want to say maybe that one of my first ones was in 2014 or 15, because I had my old Toyota base Winnebago. And the first year I was here, I didn't know the whole land rush thing. And so I didn't make it in the campground. So I did the overflow back over here, and luckily found like a place to plug in my little rig. I stayed over here the first year in overflow, but I've been camping every year.
What's that like?
It's amazing. And it was fun that first year, although I had a thing happen that was very amusing. But ever since then, I've been over here in the campground, and I've been pretty much the same site every year. And it's just really cool because you get on your bike and you go through the campground, And there are all these different little campsites where people are jamming. And it's like having your finger on the dial of a radio station. And you're just kind of cruising by and you're like, oh, and you stop. Oh, yeah, that's grooving. You keep going, you know, and you just hear all different types of music and A-list stuff, you know, like main stage caliber performances. And you're just like, what are you doing here at this campsite? Where can I see you in there? They're like, oh, some people never even go to the main stages. They stay there and they just pick because they haven't seen their friends for a long time. And there's some magic out there. So that's fun. Smelling all the smells and all of what people are cooking and seeing all the kids biking around and seeing them pick up instruments and play, knowing that they're the next wave of people. That's always encouraging. You know, the musical ecosystem is thriving.
What do you think about the future of the folk family here at the festival?
I think it's bright. I think that I'm seeing a continuation, you know. We are certainly losing numbers of people who are getting older and they aren't around anymore, but I'm seeing a lot of young people coming up who are embracing a lot of the traditions and also finding new ways to express themselves, marry those traditions with progressive stuff, which is exciting. They're passionate enough to include that in their presentation and as part of their music identity. And we were joking, I used to write for Jam Magazine statewide back in the day and Inc. 19, and I was telling one of the guys yesterday that a lot of the guys that were in all these rock bands and all these other things playing the pubs and clubs, I see them in the same acts, different acts, but the same people many years later, many years older, many years wiser, still making music, still having fun, doing what they love, but now we're like all folkies. You know, that's what the rockers do. They don't just fade away. They just unplug. They just play acoustic instruments, but they still have the same spirit and they bring that fire. And I think old people are getting cooler all the time because just of the way our society has become more informed by cultures and the world. And so it's more together and hip to include things into who you are as opposed to exclude. And so older people, I think, are getting cooler all the time because our generations have been inclusive for a long time. It's a very exciting time. So I think the folk festival going forward is infused with that spirit. You know, cool old people who are like, you know what, let's keep this going. Let's keep traditions going, but let's create some new ones while we're doing it. I feel that.
Well, in your opinion, what will it take to keep the Florida Folk Festival going?
Promotion, letting people know it exists. You know, I know a lot of times I've talked to people all across the state about White Springs, and it's funny, most people in the folk scene, they don't refer to an event by its actual name, it's where it's held. White Springs, you know, Live Oak, Winfield, whatever. So I say White Springs, they're like, what? You know, Florida Folk Festival, what's that? That's like 80% of the time. We need to get on a statewide level and let people know that we exist and that it's here and what a treasure trove and what its history is. And I think when you float that in front of people who are really starting to rebound against social media and the future and AI, they want the real deal. They want to be barefoot in the dirt. They want to touch it, taste it, feel it, see it built right in front of them and know it's real. There's going to be more of a resurgence towards that that's starting to happen already, a stampede towards the real. Can't get more real than this, right? If we let them know it's out there, they will come, and we will see attendance back to the way it has been before. Absolutely swimming with people, desperate for this. It's kind of like a best kept secret right now. It's a secret we want everybody to know.
A little while ago, you referenced a funny story, and it kind of went off to the side. Is it a story you're okay with telling?
Yeah, I am, because I owned it right on the spot. It was the first time being a featured performer. I was on the main stage. I had a great set. I couldn't believe it. The response was crazy. So I was hanging out in the jams, and that was the night that we did that 2 a.m. girls' bathroom jam, one of the first ones. Someone brought a red light in there. It was like a disco. We had 35 people in there. I can't remember his name now. He had a big bass, stand-up bass in there, and we were jamming until like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. It was just amazing. You know, and whoever it was standing next to me with the bass also had a big bottle of Jack Daniels. I'll never forget that. It was, oh gosh, his name was right there. Anyway, Olson, I want to say his last name was Olson. Anyway, I'm heading up the hillside because we're going to go to the next stage up and we're going to place him up there. And I don't know that I'm 3 sheets to the wind. So I've got my bike with me. I got my dulcimer on my back, and I want to drop some stuff over at my rig, which is down this way. So we came from this way, obviously, and this is exactly where it happened. Made our way down here with my bike, and I'm riding my bike, mind you. And I don't have any light looking forward. And I had a friend with me named Jan. Hi, Jan, if you're ever seeing this. And I made it almost there, and I wiped out spectacularly. It was one of those freeze frame moments where you're like, all I see in front of my face is concrete. I don't see any hands, though. I was lucid enough to catch that moment. And when I hit, I was like, oh, this is not going to be good. And I got up, and Jan, next morning, I said, Jan, what did I do? She said, you hit the ground, you rolled, you didn't hit your dulcimer, you avoided rolling on your dulcimer, and then you leapt up and you pumped your fist and you went, that was epic. I busted my lip wide open and my cheek fucked up my face badly. And luckily I didn't have any performances left. I could go home, and I just kind of snuck out from there. But I posted the pictures. Right after it happened, there's a picture I posted on my blog of my late night experience. So people who know about it, every once in a while will say, hey, Bing, you going biking after the jams tonight? I'll be like, no, I'm walking, thank you.
The bunches of stages, and some folks have a favorite. How about you?
I'd be lying if I didn't say it was the amphitheater.
What up with the amphitheater?
Just the energy there, the sound there is incredible. And, when you think about the different people who have performed on different stages and that mana, that energy that's in that stage, like Old Marble and other places, I do feel that to a certain degree with some of the portable stages, because they're those spaces and they're hallowed spaces where those performances took place. But the physical marble stage and that physical stage at the amphitheater and that physical area where the sound has been saturating that natural crest of the hillside and its placement central to everything else. It's the heartbeat location of the festival. So to be there with any number of people, I've been up there with 25 people scattered, and I've been up there where it was standing room only, literally, and it's always transfixing to be up there. You're always in the moment, but you're always aware of all that's transpired there and all the energy that's mixed together and what's went down there before. Absolutely pretty magical stuff there. And during the Stephen Foster Dulcimer Retreat, nothing's going on there, but just to stand there and kind of look over at it, it's like if it was a promotional video, you start to hear the music of past performances and the sounds of people murmuring as you look over there. It's fairly buzzing with energy even when there's nothing going on.
What role do you think the Swanee River, plays for this festival?
I think it really anchors it with Americana music and old-time music and Stephen Foster as a physical representation of this is a real place that somebody wrote about, not just a made-up thing. It anchors it in that reality. I think having that history of White Springs and the baths is also a neat little link to Florida history, Florida culture that's still visible and tangible and hasn't eroded away or been developed and paved over, which is so much of what's going on in this state. That's what drew me to this state, and unfortunately, developers have loved it ever since I moved here, and it just breaks my heart to see more and more. So to have this preserved is amazing. It's a jewel in the crown for sure. And the river, which is up, it's like 63, 64 right now. It's nice to see it very vital right now after so many years of seeing it drought-stricken. So it's really powerful when you can actually go and see it coursing. And by the way, the little approach over there with the steps are going down that whole concrete, that's really nice. It's very sweet. Of course, the ramp down there was like about half submerged.
When you're not performing, do you have a favorite hangout? Or do you not want to reveal?
When I'm not performing, I like usually to go out on the trail with my bike. I'll do that sometimes if I don't have a real busy schedule, or I'll start off for certain. First thing when I get camped in, I'll go out and hit the trail. I went out there this time around, and I've gone out deeper, and that's a very that's a big track out there. I didn't know for the longest time it was even here, and I was poking around, and I went, "What is this?" And there's some world-class, good, fairly tactical stuff here and there. That's probably my favorite thing when I'm not at the stages, is to get on the bike and go out that way. There's a little bit of fall out there, not much. I stuck to the maintenance trail for a good portion of it. But it's just great. All of a sudden, a few little bits, 10, 15 minutes away, and then poof, you're in the middle of Florida. Can't hear anything. Can't hear the highway. It's beautiful out there.
So tomorrow the festival will be concluding. You know, it's the official part's all done. What are you doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'm heading back to Orlando, and our next door neighbors are going to grill. My wife is making barbecue sides, and I'll be back in the morning, so sometime in the afternoon we're going to have a cookout at our neighbor's place. Chill out.
Can you think of any folks that have helped you to feel included in the folk family?
Many. I can think of, Elaine getting me here, first of all. Elaine McGrath, for sure. And Andrea. As far as musicians and types here, I'm trying to think. The ADHD, sometimes it just robs you of stuff you should know. He just passed not too long ago. Frank Thomas. Frank and Pat. One of the first couple, okay, I'm gonna cry. I have been, but anyway.
I will too, it's okay.
One of the first years I was here, I was still sort of like, I still do, but I was still like, wow, what am I doing here? So I was walking by and Pat says, "Hey, Ben, you're gonna come by the campsite tonight?" I knew that Frank always had this thing where like all the feature performers would go over to the campsite. And I was like, "Am I invited to that party?" I was like, "Sure, where are you?" She's like, "We're number so-and-so. We're looking forward to seeing you." I was like, so I went back and I like practiced a bunch of stuff. I was like, holy shit. And went there, and it was like everybody was there. Jim Stafford, Les Dudek, and I was like, whoa. And so I kind of crept in and sat down, and everybody, and Frank would have this way of holding court, smoking cigarettes by the door of the RV. He'd go, "Les, man, why don't you play us a little something on that guitar right there? Why don't you give it a little something? Hey, Jim, man, some wildwood weed would be real good right about now." And he was just conducting everything. He was a master at work, holding court, telling stories, letting people share their music. And he goes, "Bang, man, why don't you give us some mountain dulcimer?" Everybody looked at me. I just about threw up, man. And I couldn't think of anything to do. So I just I think I played like an old time tune. Instead of doing a song. I thought, now I look back, I go, dummy, you should have did a song, an original tune. But I played an old time tune. He was like, "Man, that's mighty fine. That is some mighty fine picking." And somewhere at some point, I was walking past, and the next day or two, and as I passed by, he was out front. He said, "Bing." He goes, "That was really, really fine what you did the other day. And I really, really enjoy your performances." And that was sort of a welcome to the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Daddy Frank.
Yeah.
So if someone had never been here to the Florida Folk Festival, how would you describe what happens?
I would say that it is a total immersion of Florida culture in every respect for all the senses, from hearing the music and feeling it to smelling the food and the wood being carved right in front of your eyes and the smoke fires, and from this natural environment to what's presented here and how it's presented. It's total immersion, and you'll get a chance to get an idea of what the state's all about with that one step in the pool. So if you're there for the whole weekend, it's even better. If you're ecotourist, if you want to go places, you want to learn about the people and the land, that's something that, we strive to do with our events. We don't want to just present entertainment and education. We also want to present experience, and that's what this is. It's in the woods, it's part of this whole thing, bringing it to life, this living history. It's very valuable and immersive. I love it.
So not every performer does a bunch of different things, but you do kid stage, jams, high profile, solo concert. Are any of those your favorite activity?
I like them equally. All the stuff. The jams, man, the jams this year have been off the cuff, off the charts. Well attended, nice pace. They sound like practice performances. Stunning. We have all the right instrumentation and everything. I haven't been to the workshops over there yet. Performances have been awesome. I mean, this has been great. I couldn't name a favorite. I love doing the kids tent stuff because it's just, again, it's encouraging to have them exposed to all this music this early. When there's no option, they grow up and become one of those people that say, oh, I could never do that. That's the one thing I don't like about what's happened with music and the commercialism is that it's created this boundary between the consumer and the music maker. There's this thing that becomes, oh, well, I could never do that. I'm not a professional. And it's like, it's not about that. It's about just making music because you can, because it does something for you. That's the reward. Everything else is gravy, But places where you grow up and this is normalized, you know it. It's not unusual for you to say, I'm going to pick up penny whistle this year. Why? Because I want to. So I love that this exists for that reason. So I like the fact that the kids area is there and I can present and remain a kid myself.
So I know I've noticed you impacting a lot of folks, but has any of that taken on a kind of a sticky nature where you're actually, who are you mentoring for the future here?
I'm unaware of, except for, I was just made aware of, there's a guy here who said that his daughter was at one of these jams that we do in the campground, and typically they're by the bathroom and we end up trying to figure out popular songs. And so I call out chords and whatever. And he told me this year that he pointed her out, she was dancing, but said, that's her. And she was just starting to play guitar and was in this jam with you. And she goes, I want you to know that you were very encouraging to her that night, getting her to figure out the chords and that she could do it and that she belonged in the jam. And she goes, just not long after that, she got, more serious into it and started taking lessons in different types of styles and whatever. He goes, so I want you to know that I remember that night and to thank you for that, because I think that's part of what gave her the confidence to pursue it. And I said, thank you for sharing that. That's what you hope for, when you plant seeds. They don't always take, but if you don't plant them, you don't give it the chance, So that's why I love seeing those opportunities. And when you get that feedback, it's rare. So, I mean, as far as knowingly mentoring somebody, no. I did it one time, and she became the national mountain dulcimer champion, Wendy Sange. So every once in a while, you do find that student who was ready. In 2010, she came up after a workshop in Texas and showed me some blues stuff that she'd been working on. And I said, just, you're like, I said, I'll work with you if you want to for lessons or whatever else. And she won the national championship 8 years later. I can't take a lot of that credit though, because she came from piano and she played guitar and she had a musical mind already. But how to take that and then put it on a mountain dulcimer, when you don't know proper music theory and that type of stuff. So I helped her with that and just gave her direction. It wasn't long before she was on her own. So look her up, Wendy Songe, Songe.
So you've met lots of folks and they all come back. It's homecoming, getting together. Could you tell us about someone you look forward to seeing? It's like, oh boy, I'm going to get to see.
So many people, like you. I can expect to see you in the kids area when I get over there. If I don't, it's not right. I expect to see Elaine, hopefully, but she's not busy now. I'm not sure what I'll do because she won't be here. I asked her what she was going to do, and something about traveling or getting some land somewhere or doing something. I can't really select any one person because I always know that they're going to be there. I'm going to run into them at some point. I try to make it around as much as I can because every year I miss seeing somebody. That's kind of the nature of the festival, That's why you map out your approach, start making the circles around everyone's name. Okay, I'm going here, then here. And the first day this year, I went out on my bike and was getting around and everything was great. Felt a little flat coming back Friday. Saturday morning after my kids thing coming back, I felt the tire doing this and I went to put some more air in it and it busted at the stem. So I've been hoofing it and grabbing rides when I can. So I haven't been as efficient covering the ground that I'd like to cover. So there's some people I haven't even seen Ben Prestage yet. I'm like, I need to get on the stick. He's got one more show.
Is there a question I didn't ask you that you wish I had asked you?
I thought you were very thorough. I thought you covered all the ground pretty well there.
How about this? If the Florida folk family had a family motto, and it was your choice, well, what might that be like?
Florida for all and all for Florida.
Sweet. Well, Bing, this is going in an archive and someone may hear this 20 or 50 years from now. What do you want to tell them?
We're all going to make it.
Thank you for being you. Thank you, Bing.
My pleasure.
Take care.